Okay, cool. All right, so some of the updates. So the Gitcoin campaign result, I think in the end estimation were around close to 10K. We had a we had a pretty good run until they start to extend, and then we have been me and Francesco saying that it's a rigged game. I don't know what was happening, but anyway, so our numbers start to drop a little bit, but we end up like fourth place, so quite good. Yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff. 10K. So, but where the fuck is money? I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't. So we got money as it came in, but a lot of it was not sent. So we didn't get like, there was like, I think it was 3,400, which was donated. And then there's the matching amount. So the
Right.
matching amount we've definitely not seen. We have no idea when it's coming. I suspect we won't see the full amount because they're doing some kind of, what do they call it? Collusion tests, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
So
I can kind of speak to that. I work with the team at
okay.
Gitcoin.
What
So yeah, so they're just being processed. It's just like it's a secondary thing. So the calculations and whatnot that are generated, and then the actual payout is determined at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we don't know how much that will be, but what's strange to me is that we didn't even get the full amount that was donated. So if you go on the website, it says 3,400, but we didn't get
Oh,
that.
you know what it might be is because I think if you make a recurring contribution commitment, that only does come in sporadically. So if somebody makes like,
No,
let's
it's
say
not that.
$500 over a year, you're only
I
going to
don't
get
think it's that because the recurring ones were separate. Like you see, it's 3,400, and if you go to activity, top right. No, activity, and here you can see that like the active subscriptions are only 4. Right.
Yeah, so this
yeah.
might not take into account the voucher funding. So for the $5 Gitcoin voucher funding, so presumably rDai had a number of those, and so those are a part of the secondary payout. I can get confirmation for you on that, but if it's like the $5 voucher funding themselves, they were transactions that are created in the system to mark a payout, and it goes into the calculation of your payout, like all the CLR matching and stuff.
Yeah.
So that may account for the discrepancy there.
Got it. So I think our amount is around 2,900 actually in.
No, it's more because I haven't transferred everything. I have some in my account.
Okay. So 2,900. We'll do the matching at some point. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Hopefully it will all come through.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I mean, we are not really. I just been trying to be sarcastic about it, but it's not really.
Andrew, if you can find out, that would be great though, because I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Thanks to Patrick, we have the proxy contract finished. Great. We already sent out the bounty money. I think I finished that admin stuff also. Currently, we will have, let me read my README. So we have 3 admin functions: change allocation strategy, which I don't expect we would use for quite a while. I'm curious how the auditor would come back if there's any bug. It's a little bit under tested, but probably should freeze that feature even for V1, just to be safe. If we don't plan to use it. Now we have an upgradable contract anyway. And also we have our DAO can actually change hat for any contract address. So we will sort of set up some soft process that if anyone contacts us, we will change it for them.
And so are there different admin tiers here? Like, should all of these just be with like a vote that passes 50%, or like in terms of it actually being executed? It's like, is the change hat for any address, like, if we need to have a quorum for that of at least 50, and kind of things like, is that something that, because it has some like, potentially gameable implications there.
Yeah. Currently, there's no role in the contract. So basically, there's this admin, the owner. That's it. So
right.
and
I think you can do like how many votes need to pass though.
Right, you can.
I think so.
Okay, in Aragon, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just so when you want to execute these things, sorry, like in Aragon, yeah, sorry. In terms of the
so,
DAO owning these things.
I know that there's global settings of the voting app. I don't know about individual vote. Can you customize? I need to look at the code. I never used that way, but probably you're right that it can.
Yeah, I think you can set a quorum that you need for votes to pass on some things.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that will provide there. I don't know how many people would actually use. It's a problem that in current design that we just we'll see like how big the problem becomes. That's the one admin function. The third one is the ultimate one, the upgrade code. So that one should have probably if you need to configure quorum, probably even bigger percentage.
Yeah. What about time delays on these things? I know we had talked about potentially design that. It seems like they would have different requirements. I mean, changing the hat for any contract address, if that's something where there's a real, immediate problem that we want to help solve, it doesn't seem to sort of make sense to have that be whatever the maximum safe time lock function that we have for either upgrading the code or the changing the allocation strategy.
Yeah, but we want to have it so that we just can't willy-nilly go change people's contract hat addresses or hats and reallocate things for them.
Well, but I think that there's like benevolent dictatorship, sort of built into a lot of these early stage protocols where as long as we're like transparent about it and saying this is why it's there, if you generally trust us, like that presumably anybody can issue their own, rToken contract that's forked and different if they really hate that. But it's something, and as long as we would be transparent about it and like put it out there and say we did this for this reason.
Yeah, I just try to think in terms of like around the DAO itself, how many people are going to be as a part of voting it. Like I think it should be a relatively fast thing, but I'd be really curious to see like legal ramifications of us being able to do that without like, incredibly strict guidelines around that. Because that's potentially like, easily being able to, or I shouldn't say easily, but the ability to manually allocate something on anyone's behalf. Now, I totally get it. It should be a thing that we should figure out how to do. I'd just be curious if legal ramifications.
I mean, the idea that it would be a contract is important here, right? So the person that would contact us would be some sort of contract, either admin or somebody who's being affected by the contract. And because it's actually something where they're pointing to a particular address, we can verify if that's really a contract, right? Whereas at the start, you have no idea whether an address is a contract or not. But if you have an exact address you can point to, you can go investigate that and realize that is a contract address. And so I think there's a little bit of safety built in there as compared to the sort of fear that somebody would just have a regular EOA and that we would go in and tamper with the hat, that way. I think that there's at least some level of... The problem
is sometimes it's quite hard to determine who is the owner of a contract. It's like...
A good example would be like a Gnosis Safe when you deploy a multi-sig wallet, like you want to create an account.
A Gnosis Safe I would consider fairly easy because you can just say, prove that you're the owner by withdrawing all your rDai.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And they can do that. But if you have a contract that it doesn't do that, then, where like think Uniswap, right? I mean, who's the owner of Uniswap? It's hard to say. There's no conclusive answer. Like you can just debate for hours who's the owner. There's no owner, right? So for some contracts, it's super hard. But again, I think it's going to be so rare. We shouldn't really worry about it.
Yeah,
should we have criteria for like when that would come up? I mean, are we really talking about avoiding really negative outcomes? Like for instance, where somebody's got a hat pointing to something that's considered potentially objectionable versus the situation of like, oh, it's a contract and oh, I'd just like to get the benefit of being able to, point it back to myself. I mean, I think they're really kind of different problems if you're talking about like getting the benefits of rDai versus eliminating some sort of abstract, but potentially, serious downside for somebody's reputation.
Yeah, well, good question. Good question.
I think for V1, like I'd prefer to have it be more like the smaller surface area where you have to sort of come to us and say, this is a real problem for us, rather than we'd like to have this benefit from it. But,
yeah. Well, again, if you have a clear idea, maybe jot down a few lines. We can put that wherever we put the information, and that can be the policy. I mean,
okay.
That's why we initially thought that's why we initially thought a more subjective or offline court system like Claros, so that because for each individual contract, the criteria may be very different. Like Gnosis Safe, it's the actual owner of the Gnosis Safe. Uniswap exchange, maybe it should belong to the pair token, the creator of that token, actual token. So I guess that's a perfect way to offload to a off-chain court, and there can be some sort of not necessarily everything is written rule, but some rule we should come up with just on the go.
I'd be curious to look at in terms of V2 how eventually you could have that, like the mechanism. I don't know how that works in terms of Claros, but presumably you could have some form of adjudication contract that's able to execute on behalf of the result of some settlement. But
yeah, so I coded the Claros before. So what it happens is that you can start a process dispute, basically. Once the dispute is resolved, then some action can be executed. So either that can be used for disputing the hat, the address and hat, the association itself. Then you can break it up or set into a new hat, this kind of thing. So yeah, it will have you need to select a court, basically, in the Claros sense. So you have a specialized rDai court that can determine where the hat should go, what's the hat for the address, this kind of thing. So it's more for the off-chain functionality. However, Aragon also gonna have a court, which they had some fight with the Claros guy also about it. I don't know if you heard of them. Okay. So
they basically forked Claros and copied all the stuff into their code, and yeah, it's a bit weird. There's 1,000 pages of discussions on their forum about the morality of forking the code base. It's quite interesting. If you ever have a few hours to waste on it, it's quite interesting to have a read.
Is this
just like explaining the rest of my afternoon? I'm totally jet lagged, so this might be perfect.
Yeah, I think if you go to Aragon forum and search for Claros, and if you see Clement, the Claros creator, he I don't know if he deleted the rants, but I think on forum
they're all there.
Okay, cool. So right, yeah, go ahead if you want to read about it. But yeah, so they basically copied it and. Yeah.
I like this idea though of a single forum and building up some sort of principles and precedents about what to do and under what circumstances, and not to say that we're going to know immediately ahead of time what kinds of disputes and issues will come up, but having it all in one place with some sort of
cool,
regular things makes some sense to me.
I think we should take a common law approach.
It's like case law database for Victor.
Yeah, case law. Until there's a case, we can have guidelines, and then when we have cases, we can actually think of it. Because again, I think it's not going to happen very often, so we shouldn't waste too much brain bandwidth on this, because it's not going to happen as often as we like to think it will.
Yeah, right. I think for V2, we'll reach there. We'll talk about when we discuss about V2 plan. I think the bigger energy should not on these theoretic topics, but actually how can we get more people mint rDai. I think we should use a lot of budget for doing that. But before we head into that subject in the end, what else? So the biggest item for these 2 weeks is the auditing. So the QuantStamp guys are aware that today we freeze the code, and they promise that they will get the code audited if there's no back and forth too many problems by 25th. That's quite quick in my opinion. So next Friday, that should be a checkpoint if they deliver the report. So that's the update about it, and the code already frees in the sense that it's in a branch. So if anything need to be fixed, we'll fix in this branch, and for each fix, they will have a separate process to validate and things like that. We'll follow their steps basically. Osaka updates. So we chatted about a little bit before, but if anything you want, is there anything you want to mention related to rDai?
Sure. Yeah. So I was on a panel discussing rDai on the main stage at DevCon, and it was early in the morning. There were a few people there compared to some of the other bigger panels, but there were enough people that were engaged, and a bunch of people came up afterwards and really wanted to talk about it. And I guess the sort of headline is that everybody loves rDai, and nobody sort of had that perspective of, oh, it's not going to work because X, or oh, it's like already been done by Y, or this kind of thing. It had a very positive thing, and you could kind of see people's wheels start spinning. And Patrick made a good point that whenever we'd start talking to people about it, instead of getting that sort of, oh, that's good, cool, good luck, I'll be following that kind of sort of general positive rebuffing that you kind of get when you talk about these projects, almost always you got questions. You got people starting to sort of unpack what that meant and how it worked. And I think that was a really good sign that people were really kind of engaging intellectually with the idea and really trying to turn it over and think about how it applied to their use cases and their conception of what the DeFi universe looked like. And so overall, I think it was a very encouraging moment where you take this community of people that have the greatest amount of knowledge and sort of critical thinking about these types of issues. And overall, people were vastly excited about the possibilities of it. And so there were a lot of individual, conversations I could sort of recap, but it's probably not worth it. On this call here, I'm happy to do a debrief with folks that are interested afterwards, but a lot of leads to follow up on, a lot of projects that were very excited to work with us, including, smart wallet companies and
Monolith
organizations.
Which ones? Monolith. It's really
Monolith.
interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
We spoke. Yeah.
Oh,
Mel,
yeah. I spoke to their engineering team too, and they said the second it's on mainnet, let them know to just launch it.
Right.
Who's
and then
this?
another one.
Monolith.
Monolith. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see them continue. Who did you speak with? Yanis?
Giannis and the engineering team, Bryce as well.
Yeah.
And I think it was the community relations, and then also met Mel. Oh, and a really good takeaway that I've learned is that 8 rDai shirts is not enough for the world. I think we could get a lot of money. No, this is no jokes. If we sell rDai swag, it could give us a significant capital income stream.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
People were just like, "How can I get that shirt?" And it's like, "There's only 8." And they're like, "Okay, so where do I buy it online?" It's like, "You don't."
I
And
told you,
okay.
Victor, there was gonna be FOMO about the shirt.
There is. It worked. So I mean, just like a printful page that just has it on hoodies, t-shirts, whatever you name it. I think there could be some significant capital income there.
Sounds fun.
Maybe we get a stain that you could put on real dollar bills that stains an rDai symbol on it.
Oh.
I got something to show you guys too that's from the event. The hardware that came out of it.
Really good.
Oh, the rDai stamp, yeah? Nice.
Yeah, that's joking, but I do want to mention also, I want to see what Andrew's got here, but I've got one more.
Oh,
you got the Kong. Okay, cool. Is that real?
We were talking about
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's legit. It's 100%. I can't even believe it. The guy's not even fucking around. It's real. And so it's polymer PCB.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's got a HSM for signing transactions if you had to. It's NFC embedded, so you can verify that it's from the manufacturer. It's a full-on computer device, basically polymer silicone right here. And you tap it and scan it. It verifies that the private key inside the HSM is basically that the public key attached to the bill is a proper Kong smart contract that has value time locked into it, and it's time locked for 3 years after creation. And so they basically if anything happened, you need to retrieve this later on down the line. But this is V1, and he says that the next version, the HSM, is going even tinier and getting into like, you know, clear wafer style. And these cost $10 right now to manufacture one of them. But he's legit. So he's building like a warehouse.
$10,
like, so,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but one Kong costs $10 to create, and
Right.
so, he basically has this, like, the theory is that in the future, in some, like, you know, future he's dreamed of, the only valuable currency in the world is the Japanese yen and Kong.
Okay.
And like, he's not even fucking around. He's building things so that you can create it, and so you get like little black cards, and then basically like you're like a Kong signer, and the only way to get it is to buy it from somebody that's gotten it from someone that bought it from him. Basically, like,
Yeah.
you know, this crazy system. Anyways, yeah, it was definitely a trip. I was like, I gotta have one. I was like, I need to get one of these things from you.
Really cool.
That's cool. Yeah. I have some technical detail question, but I'll leave later. Cool.
So one more last update before we move on to the next one I wanted to share for sure is I had a good chat with Alex Van de Zand about the Ethereum Foundation's tip jar. The way he explained it to me was that all these tips that came in early in the sort of Ethereum ecosystem days amounted to a substantial pot of money, and that there appears to be some sort of complete, I guess, like gridlock about whether and under what circumstances to ever spend that. And so his view was, this is essentially like, you know, an impossible political bureaucratic problem to spend these funds, but I want to do something useful with it. And so we got to talking, and he had some ideas about how he would have designed something that was rDai-ish, you know, if he was thinking about it. But then I walked him through how rDai worked, and he was very excited about that possibility of essentially converting it into Dai and then being able to, you know, turn it into rDai and then fund grants out of it. Now, one of the things that he thought would be a much more useful case is to have fixed fees, you know, to say, we're going to give some team, let's call it 1,000 Dai over a period of time. And, you know, knowing that that's precise means that you have to sort of think about it kind of a fixed interest rate type product on top of rDai. But he was very interested in it. And I think we should definitely follow up and figure out how best to sort of meet those needs, because I think not only is it a really cool opportunity to show rDai in action, but like having the kind of imprimatur of the EF doing it, and also then funding additional ecosystem funding is a really great use case, and I think great publicity for rDai.
Yeah, huge network bootstrap right there.
He made a chat. He made a group chat with us, but yeah, he hasn't followed up. I don't know who's back in their country working and who's still on holiday after DevCon. So it's hard to say, but I'll definitely get back in touch with him. I'm not sure who else is in the chat. Are you guys there?
I am, at least if it's the one I'm thinking of, because that's how I got the introduction from you guys. It's the Telegram.
Oh, did you set it up? Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, so yeah, maybe we can, you know, just get back in touch with him, and let's push that forward, because that would be validation from a very, very worthwhile source, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly is the kind of thing where I'm sure he has to answer at some point to other folks in the EF, and I think, you know, they're going to want the audit to be done, right, by the time we really move forward with it. So I think there's some work we could do before that happens, but I think that we really need to be thinking about that timetable, not so much like getting too ahead of it to sort of, you know, tie that to day one of when the audit's done.
But I mean, realistically, the audit is going to be 2 weeks, let's say. It shouldn't be longer than that. So we can start, you know, we can tell people the code's in the auditor's hands, which is already a big deal. You know, it means it's coming. You know, we're not fucking around. We finished the work, and now it's coming soon. So, you know, I think we should, like start talking about this stuff again. And
for that, I think we should have a more systematic approach in terms of how to get more people mint rDai. That's one interesting follow-up. I think we would need some other approach also. So I would like, we only have 4 people in the call today, but I would like to find somebody can step up, actually be our sort of marketing lead in getting more people mint Dai. I think that's something that we should think about and work on next 2 weeks to get somebody step up and do it. Maybe we should also talk about what kind of budget we have in a smaller circle. Once we have figure out the rDAO's people structure, I think we have now three times the meeting already, so we know more or less who are always in the meeting. So we know this kind of structure start to form, like the core people. So I think we're reaching a point that we should formalize this very soon. I think we can work on that next 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, I would say that basically for rDai to get sustainability, it basically means two things. On one side, we should build a UI with some kind of fee structure in it, even if it's just small, you know. And on the other side, we need more grants and we need, you know, ecosystem funding and all of this stuff. And that stuff you can only get if you're worthwhile, if you're big enough, if you're driving an impact.
Yeah. So we should use all our resources from V1 to drive the impact to get our, you know, more basically only one metric, right? How many people, how much money locked in rDai. And for V2, if we have a good vision, I think we should go for the second round of community funding, which we will use a summit as a way to get our roadmap for V2 clear and communicate to the people and get funding. I think that should be the yearly plans, I think, for this year.
So you're thinking about, just to recap, you're thinking about something before or after ETH Denver next February?
I think that would make the most sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, that if we have a plan that before that we go with a plan. And in the meantime, we work hard on use our existing budget to get people use it and get people to, you know, actually use a hack functionality, which is where the most complexity coming from to this contract. So yeah, either we prove that the hack structure is not really useful, then V2 move on to something else, or either we prove that it's actually very useful, then, you know, then we get validated and, you know, we have more information regarding how to build V2.
But yeah, I think we should really start talking about marketing, like more than marketing, specifically, I would say user acquisition, right? How do we get, or liquidity acquisition? How do we get liquidity? Where do we look for it? How do we look for it? What's the budget? Who does it? I think the reason to do it is fairly clear, but if you guys have different opinions, I'd love to hear those.
I think like a great place to start there is going to be the partnership side of things. Like, for instance, Monolith wanting to integrate relatively quickly. You could look at like, you know, how do you acquire Monolith users at $5 a user? It's pretty low cost of acquisition. So you just put up the ability to them go get redeemed, or, you know, put rDai in the system or come through the Monolith wallet, and we can onboard you to the rDai ecosystem relatively inexpensively.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, InstaDApp is another one. I'd love to see InstaDApp, you know, take an interest in this, and so that you could go from Ether right through InstaDApp to rDai and not have to worry about doing the whole management process side of things yourself. You know, those type of things, I think, for user acquisition are going to be, you know, really big boons.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, Victor, do you want to say something about Tribute?
Yeah. So yeah, we're thinking along those same lines as well. You know, we've got a very, very creaky prototype that's working. I actually showed Andrew when we were in Osaka. We've got a MetaMask app, or it works in MetaMask kind of thing. We were able to transfer. You know, it worked roughly well to be able to send people essentially rDai that was abstracted away as Tribute. Only on Kovan, of course. So I think we're going to do that as well. We're talking to Kyber about integrating that. And I haven't spoken to anybody from Wire, but I don't know if you guys saw, they just released sort of a V2 for Wire that allows like some pretty impressive fiat on-ramp functionality from Apple Pay, Google Pay, that like abstracts away all the KYC AML using the existing info that you're already sharing with those two companies. And so you can get into crypto much more smoothly without having to sort of jump through those extra hoops. And so I think those kinds of on-ramps are a big deal, because you could essentially be pitching it to people that are maybe crypto curious as opposed to the hardcore people that are already in DeFi, because of the attractive qualities here. And I think, you know, one of the things that we also see as a very strong, and you guys seem to have the same observation, but a very strong potential set of partners are charities, because of the fact that you're overcoming this, paying out of pocket, loss aversion, cognitive bias when you're using interest to pay for things. And so I think, we've got a bunch of connections with charities through Patrick's work with the Giving Block here. And so I think we're certainly going to be talking to them more about what they would like to see and how they would want to integrate rDai and or Tribute to sort of get people bootstrapped in. But I think the product is so good, it's a matter of just figuring out how to not mess it up and reach out to the right people. But we have a lot of different kind of thoughts about how to push that forward on the Tribute side as well.
Right.
Yeah. Side note about that, you mentioned that you're working with charities and Tribute. I have an amazing introduction I can make for you. Excuse me. It's to a company called FundMetric. We can take it offline, but definitely hit me up for that. They basically do like all the mail outs for all the charities, and the charities are always looking for another avenue and how to get money quicker, save money, that kind of thing. So
cool. Thanks.
Sounds good. Yeah, the charity is definitely one of the biggest use cases. Actually, I think initially we even thought about it's called what is it, rToken or something like that, but it became rDai, so it wasn't good. Something like that. I can't. Yeah. Okay. So with time a little bit tight, so I'll go through quickly about the recap a little bit quicker about the sombrero problem, I call it. So that we will have, currently the hat is really expensive. So if you have more than like 20 recipients in the hat, each transfer either going to your wallet address or going out from your address gonna take a bit toll because of the number of distribution you need to do. So that's a known problem, but we limit the number to 50 so that you theoretically you just can't lock your wallet. So we want to prevent the case that you have a so big recipient list and some money comes to you and you can never get it out. So that's a case we want to avoid. So we physically disallow big number, more than 50.
So you're disallowing the locking, but you can still grief people.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can do it so that like I can run it multiple times and just map where I am in my hat list? And so like using like a sentinel value or something and moving it through the array as you complete it?
I'm not sure that's possible. Because the fact is basically when you make a transfer, you have to, so I'm not sure if you've looked at the contracts, but basically when you make a transfer, you're not only transferring rDai, you're also transferring the underlying cDai, right? So
right.
You're basically transferring a lot of different things at the same time. And that's why the more hats you have, the more gas you spend, right? Because you have to upgrade each single hat.
Yeah, so it's intuitive to understand in a way that, so basically when you mint rDai, the contract owes you DAI, but you get rDai in return, and the contract invests the DAI to become cDAI, and then you distribute the cDAI to the hat recipients. So those recipients own the cDAIs, but at the same time, the recipients owe you also the DAI back. So this kind of double ledger kind of accounting to make sure that there's no losing bits when this kind of operation happening. So that's why when you transfer from one person to one address to the other, there is kind of collecting all those cDAI back from the recipient and go to the new recipients list. So that all these kind of operations cost a lot of gas. I think one of the latest gas which caused this fork, what's it called, Istanbul, the Ethereum fork that optimized those bits of the gas cost. So when you change,
for non-zero data.
Yeah, exactly. So
15,
that
59.
helps a lot. But the things I tested with Ganache, which didn't have those updated, so those gas costs actually inflated. In the real in the mainnet, it's actually even less. So
yeah. Well, anyways, I think it's something we should probably think about and optimize.
Yeah.
Next time, soon, not yet.
Yeah, so I couldn't get this before the audit. So it's about the allocation strategy switching. I did test before, but I didn't. Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll disable this feature before we release. So this is still work in progress. Regarding the Aragon rDai admin, Andrew, I think we should have a separate call, maybe tomorrow, with you,
Sure.
so that we go through some of the details and yeah, because we didn't have time to actually so far to talk about what's exactly needs to be done, and I would like to also understand more from you how you are going to approach the problem.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So tomorrow, similar time for you, is it working?
Yeah, tomorrow actually right around this time works great.
Okay,
it's
cool.
11 a.m. for me, so if it works good for you guys, it's perfect.
Okay, I'll schedule time with you. Okay, help wanted. I think I'll use the forum to ask people about who wants to. Maybe I'll do it myself, a discourse forum. Maybe it's so simple that it just takes 10 minutes. I can set it up. So.
Wait, do we have the discourse forum set up? I don't know. I might have missed that.
We don't. I haven't had time to address it. I'll take a look myself. If it's so easy, I'll just do it myself. If I help needed, I'll see if anyone can give a hand to help that. We do need revamp our rDai landing page before we actually launch. I think in the Bounty, I posted last sync up meeting. We should have some budget for that. I think it's worth to build a better landing page. Yeah, and the official dApp, which can be tribute, of course. But we also talk about maybe we need a more bare-bone official dApp that doesn't hide the details and things like that. So help wanted. So if anyone of you know that anyone have spare time to work on this, so we do have a budget from the Meta Cartel mining or actually from Gitcoin rather to sponsor a little bit on that. So yeah.
Do you guys have any ideas of someone who has, acceptable graphic design skills? Because current website was made by someone who is not very good at making pretty stuff, which is me.
And we are stuck with the logo.
We're stuck with the logo. Sorry, guys.
Logo's good. Logo's good.
That's a joint collaboration of me and Peter. I made the design with different colors. He changed the colors.
Okay, he changed the color. Okay.
Yeah, I made the shape. He made the colors.
Okay.
It's funny because it's people are like, I love the logo. It's like, yeah, it's great actually. And the black shirt with the color, just it all like, it's great.
Lights up.
Or the dark shirt, sorry.
It lights up the room.
Yeah, actually, I saw Patrick send a T-shirt with this money logo, actual Lego, and he put rDai on top of the Lego. It looks like a bonsai. I thought that's very zen.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so to do rDAO people structure. Okay, we'll have a separate meeting probably during next week to talk through it with this. Andrew, with you also, I think. And follow up with Alex van der Sande, right? About that. Okay, cool. Do you think we have time to talk about DAI savings rate, or it's too technical? Maybe we'll leave it to another time.
There's one thing I'd like to say. So for now, rDai has been kind of going up in a hype cycle, but at the moment, the DAI savings rate is very high up on everyone's, hype radar. It would be very good for us from a PR point of view if we were one of the first to build a derivative.
Right. Yeah. So this is where I'm not so sure. Yeah. Sorry.
You don't have to integrate it.
Okay.
You just have to build it.
Yeah, even that, I wasn't sure that I understood the DSR. Is it time locked or is it not? From what I read, it's not. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
It's not time locked. It's just you can move it in and out, as freely as you're willing to pay the gas. But there's a lot of stuff around it right now, and obviously, I don't know if you guys saw, even people on Twitter are calling out rDai DAO to potentially build a wrapper to try to make it kind of this invisible thing because of the fact that like having two different DAI savings rates out there, like there's the DAI that's in the DAI savings rate, the DAI that's outside the DAI savings rate, kind of tends to, I think, potentially fracture people's utility and understanding of how it's going to work. So there's some push for people to essentially make a wrapper so that everything is DAI savings rate, but you can freely transfer it. So I don't know. It does seem like it's a little bit of a mission, it's orthogonal to exactly building out V1 and exactly what we want to do with it. So I don't know that we want to kind of take that on as a sort of community-wide, we'll take this mantle and run with it kind of thing. But it's certainly out there as a request from the community.
So lack of detail or maybe lack of research from my side makes me very uncertain about it because from what I read, in a lot of places there is a time locking. But if you say there's no, okay, then I don't understand the product at all. Because how can you achieve that? I just don't understand. I want read more technical details so that I can understand. From my side,
I put the link here in the chat
for
their GitHub. So yeah, have a look. In any case, what I want to say is just that realistically, at the moment, that's one of the hottest topics on crypto Twitter. So if we were the ones to build a wrapper, that would be very good for initial liquidity. Again, I don't really see I don't see it long term, but people want it. So yeah.
I'll also point out that I had two conversations with Vamsi, who's one of the top people integrating with partners for DAI savings rate, and also his boss, whose I think name is Lassie. I spoke to them both and basically pushed this idea that there really should be a Telegram or some other channel for people that are building on DAI savings rate to be able to ask these very technical questions instead of just relying on whatever docs they're putting out, which are not, as complete and there's even some talk. We had a conversation with Vamsi earlier about how they might actually change up how this works 6 months down the line after the DAI savings rate comes out. Exactly. So
that's why I wouldn't rely too much on it. I think it's a gimmick that we should probably build and never launch, just so we can kind of claim the mantle without taking the risk. But I wouldn't launch it because, first of all, they'll probably change it, especially if we build it, right? Because if you build something that makes it meaningless, they will change how it works. I mean, they're bound to do that, right? And then again, I don't see the liquidity, the wrapper working, because if you wrap it, then it stops working. So I don't know. Okay.
It has to be time locked to make sense. So sorry, I'm just stuck with this idea. But okay. But I think bottom line is that we need to be part of this conversation. It's sort of sideline. Yeah. Okay, that's the bottom line. Okay.
Sorry, Victor. Before DEF CON, we did talk about this. Did you happen to have a talk with Rich from MakerDAO?
I did. Yeah. He encouraged. I had a good chat going through everything, and he encouraged a submission for a request there. It was a little bit sort of, I was fudging between Tribute and rDai the whole time. So I'll run something by you guys, what I'm going to submit to him. But I think he gets it, that the two things were related, and I think he's on board with helping build it out. And I sort of was heavy on the types of arguments for why this could be something that actually onboard a lot more users into using DAI because of the new kinds of tools and sort of like, feel good powers that it enables users to have, especially when you talk about the charity context.
Okay. So what are the next steps on that?
So tomorrow am drafting something to send to him. Kind of have to choose how much to ask for. He said, don't ask for $50,000. That was one instruction he said. So we have to kind of figure out where that is and figure out sort of how to describe the two projects and how we think it makes sense in what we're actually asking for to help build it. But I think there's a lot of excitement there, and a bunch of the folks from the marketing and the integrations team also had a lot of really exciting positive things to say, and wanted to make as many introductions as they could. So I think that there's a fair amount of excitement about rDai and that particular ecosystem within the maker folks there. I mean, they're all of course extremely busy with just launching multi-collateral DAI, but I think they also are thinking about expanding the universe to new DAI users. And I think there's at least a sub community within that thinks that rDai can be a big part of that.
Okay, cool. Okay. Well, if you look, I tried, no answer. So if you feel like you could ask for both for Tribute and rDai, core protocol development and app development, that would be great. If you,
that's the plan.
It might even help to ask for a larger quantity because you're splitting it.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, up to you.
Okay. I'll share with you guys what I'm gonna send him.
Cool. Okay. Ongoing bounties.
No, before that, okay, ongoing bounty, and last topic is about V2. Okay, ongoing bounty, we have security analysis. No one picked it up so far. About some of the detail about how do we do the calculation in our contract. In Compound, they use some exponential math, which cost more gas but more accurate. But in our case, I did a little bit slacky way that a lot of rounding can be wrong in really small digits. But I don't know what's the impact. I'm curious about what the auditor would say about it. So that's the bounty. And Andrew is taking the rDAO Aragon app. I think we will need it before they actually launch. Before we actually started publicly launch it. So, I don't think it's a good idea to have I think it would be probably my one of the Trezor or Nano Ledger admin at the moment, but I think we should swap it in time and test it. That'll probably be 1 or 2 weeks after the auditing finishes, timeline-wise.
Yeah, I think the actual scope isn't so bad. It's just a matter of explicitly what we want to have be available and how we want it to work. But using the agent app, it should be pretty straightforward. It's just gonna be the UI stuff that I have questions about.
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of questions actually to ask you tomorrow. I will schedule a meeting with you about how you're going to use agent to do that. Okay. Additionally, if anyone found a security bug and non-security bug, I put some price tag there. I didn't really get a lot of consent from most people, but so far no one actually reported anything.
Do you guys think these amounts are all right? These budgets?
Yeah. So
I think if it's an actual security bug and it has real implications, I don't think anyone's really gonna. It's probably a better exploit than $100 gets them in that regard. If they can do something, but I'd be curious. You probably offer $1,000, and if there's a bug, if they're there, we want to find them. I guess that's my point.
Right. Fair point. Look at how much we have. So.
Yeah, no, I was thinking whenever post Gitcoin payments. Yeah, other side of things though is it could launch, and until it gains, I guess just one of two things: either kills the hype or shows that the project's
right.
hype.
Yeah. We have high hope on the quant stamp people. So.
Yeah.
What's the sort of rough timeline in your minds between getting the results of the quant stamp audit back and when you would actually think about deploying to mainnet?
Good question.
So I think a non-public, how do you say? I think I would have to deploy a contract to mainnet during the next few days, so that quant stamp people maybe can do on-chain analysis, because some of the tools actually require a contract instance in the network, as far as I know. So I will have to do that anyway. But that's by no means the one that we for sure are gonna use. Maybe we'll use, maybe we'll not, but it depends on the result. So if everything goes well, then that contract will be the one we use.
Is there any kind of downside there to potentially having this other mainnet rDai contract that would continue to float around if we decided it looks
I
a little
don't think
different?
so. I don't think so. It'll be just digital trash, but
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
One thing I would just be curious is multi-collateral DAI is coming up on the 18th of November. And so the process to which you have to migrate out of rDai to the new rDai would be something to consider too.
Is it a
Maybe,
different DAI contract even?
Yeah, it's a whole new ecosystem.
So it's literally a different DAI contract.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Because it has the new DAI savings rate, and you can join into the DAI savings rate, and so it's going to join contract adapter and a whole new set of things. So there's going to be the old DAI and the new DAI, and then everyone has to migrate out the old DAI, and then it's going to go emergency shutdown on all your CDPs and stuff, and my whole migration.
So when I looked at, so we don't really touch DAI, right, Meow? We only touch CDAI technically.
But CDAI says that the holders of Compound DAI have to like migrate themselves. Like it's a requirement of the users of Compound, not on the Compound's not going to do it for you.
It's not exactly how I understood it. What I understood is that they basically on Compound they will have 2 tokens. Basically, they'll have an.
Oh, okay. I thought that they made an announcement saying that it's not the Compound's not going to do it.
Yeah, they're not going to do it in the sense that they're going to run both tokens at the same time and just expect users to over time move. But
move
at the
from
beginning,
CDAI to CDAI 2.
To new CDAI.
But that's confusing. But what do they call with the DAI? The DAI V2 or how does it call?
I suspect what we are working on will be the old version, single collateral DAI, and then the new one will be multi-collateral DAI.
Yeah, okay. My question is simpler. How you call it? How you communicate with people? It's so hard to communicate. I mean, when you say that.
One thing that the maker people seem to be doing was calling the current DAI. They started reverting to calling it Psi.
Yeah.
Like if you remember before DAI really came out, that was their sort of testnet version of it, or the earlier one. And so they've started calling the current version of DAI Psi, and that multi-collateral DAI will become the new DAI. So that's one way, at least internally, we can talk about Psi being the current product, and then post November 18.
Right.
Yeah, every time that they answered a question about how it will work, it was like you take your Psi and you move it to your DAI. And it's always very much framed that way. So it's like, and then if you ask them a question, it's like, what do you mean about today or about when we launch, MCD? Because it's like those questions are a little different.
Yeah. Well, the problem for us is not even, I mean, we could even decide to launch the same day and go directly with multi-collateral DAI. But the main issue is
we can't because we don't know.
Compound.
We
depend on
Compound. Yeah.
So if there's no rate on Compound, it's like, why should we, right? So realistically, we should probably pace it out and
Yeah, we wait. Maybe that. Yeah, maybe the rDai 2 V2 is multi-collateral.
Right. Both, right? It's just a different rToken. We can have 2 different rTokens.
Yeah, we could. It depends on where is the saving strategy? Or is it Compound? Is it going to be DSR and this kind of question? It could for the multi-collateral. Maybe we'll use a DSR instead of Compound. Okay, I guess we just need to wait. I mean.
Yeah, we just need to wait, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
The other side of things is that I think it's prudent to start having conversations right now with Compound and just reach out to them and email them and say, hey, we'd love to know your plans for MCD adoption. Like rDai is built on back of Compound right now, but that's also like it brings up an interesting point about platform risk because if we don't have multiple saving strategies long term, then potentially you get nixed by one of these. Yeah. But anyways, I think that this would be a great. Also talking to to Fulcrum and the BZX guys, it would be a great opportunity to see how their plans for immediate support of MCD are going to be and how the DSR is going to play into their ecosystem. So I really do believe that we want to have this concept of a programmable set of investment strategies, like a basket of investment strategies versus just one single one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ideally, I don't think we should even manage defining the basket, but that's a different That's a different conversation.
I think that's a perfect subject for the V2 discussion. I don't think today we can have time anymore, but I suggest we schedule a time next week with this group plus Patrick probably about our DAO structure and about our budget plan for before V2, like how do we use the money and what do we target to, and what do you want to see from the V2 most? What are the hot topics you want to address? So I guess we can schedule a similar time next week.
Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, do they need
So Andrew, you would have time next week?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll be good. I work from home primarily and run my own company too, so I'm pretty flexible.
Okay. Schedule a time.
How is Groundhog going?
We're having our interesting challenges. Adoption is going to be a bit of a pain. The integration side of things is taking longer than we expected, but largely we need to fundraise, and if we don't, then that might be the end of that ship for the time being. It's like heavily fundraiser dependent or fundraising dependent. Sorry, I'm moving the VC route primarily, and so we're looking at a couple strategies that might be opening up here, but right now it's just a little bit up in the air.
Right.
All right. So how about next week? Let's say Wednesday also.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just this time is good for people.
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday are usually like the better days for me.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So Wednesday, similar time. Okay, I'll send a meeting request, including Patrick. Okay. So yeah, I think we run out of time. It's a good discussion, and I really want to see our rDai launch to mainnet very, very soon. Has been like in the air for so long. So
yeah, so long.
Actually,
what, 3 months?
Guys, what do you guys think about launching before ETH Waterloo? I'm putting out maybe a bounty on that.
When's that?
That's November 8th.
10th of November. Yeah, 8 November. So it's doable. Well, kind of. It will be quite tight, actually.
Well, yeah, we just need to have the contract audited and a proper landing page and a functional dApp. Not too much to ask.
So by the way, I'm planning on attending, and my goal was to try to build something awesome for either Tribute or rDai. So if you guys have people that you know that want to build on it, or if you have a particular idea of some sort of function or feature, that would be cool to attack. I mean, I've got a lot of sort of potential ideas here, but nothing that's like so compelling that that I would, not want to get feedback about what else people think we should be building.
RUSDC?
Doesn't excite me very much, but I get it. There's a demand out there for it.
It's been done before.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think I've got an idea, actually. I'll tell you about it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Do you have a team already, or?
I don't know if Patrick's going to be able to come. If he does, he'd be on the team, but then, no, I don't have a team yet other than that.
Okay.
Also, if it's possible for next week, could we do Thursday rather than Wednesday? Wednesday is actually harder for me next week.
Okay, Thursday. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
There's a potential that I'll be at Waterloo as well this year, so it might be great to really bang on something.
Yeah, cool.
Where are you guys based in the US?
I'm in DC.
All right.
And I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada.
Oh, you're in Canada, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The Waterloo journey is not too bad at all for me. It just depends on what's going on. Been gone a lot this year, so
yeah.
See how that plays out with the wife.
I feel you. Okay. Well,
all right, cool, guys.